Hi everybody, it's February, and in February we are celebrating Black History Month, all month. There are so many amazing books, I can't wait to get started telling you about them. I have mentioned before the 1619 Project, Born on the Water. This is a story of Black history that begins in the beautiful kingdoms in Africa that Black Americans lived in before they were terribly and tragically kidnapped, enslaved in this country. This book, Born on the Water, gives you a great overview of a long time of Black history. This is The People Remember, and it's very similar in that it begins to talk about the beautiful, powerful kingdoms in Africa and how the people lived before they were enslaved in this country, how they survived that, how they went on to flourish from that. It is a gorgeous looking book. It is also some of the best words I've ever seen. Fantastic, The People Remember. There's also a pretty new DK book. It's called Timelines from Black History. If you come to the library at all, or you've heard me talk about books before, you know that I love a DK book. They have the most beautiful illustrations. They have all kinds of wonderful information. And this again talks about African kingdoms through the horrific times of slavery, and also brings us into the present where we talk about, the book talks about Black Americans who are scientists, who are sports figures, who are making a difference and changing the world today. I love a DK book, and a timeline is an awesome way to understand history. For my younger friends, there's the ABCs of Black history, where it takes each letter and tells you some wonderful things like B is for beautiful, I'm talking to you. Your voice, your height, your hair, your hug. B is for brave, for bright, for bold, for those who stood up even when they were told to step back. And B is for brotherhood and believing in grace. The ABCs of Black history is not just for young readers, but it's a wonderful introduction. One of my favorite Black History Month books, and I've shared this with you before, is 28 Days. Each day of the month of February, you can turn to day 16, for instance, it's Rosa Parks. It will tell you about an amazing person in Black history. So those are some overview books. Then there are the Inventors and the Pioneers. This is Wind Flyers. You can see that it's about a pilot a long time ago when planes were still open air. And this is about a pilot and a little boy and how they grow up to have a role in the famous Tuskegee Airmen, who were soldiers in World War II, who were some of the first fighter pilots. This is Patricia's Vision, the doctor who saved sight. It is the true story of Dr. Patricia Bath, who came up with and invented a surgery that would give people their eyesight back. One of my all-time favorite inventor books is Whoosh, the Lonnie Johnson super soaking stream of invention. It's the story of Lonnie Johnson, who invented the super soaker squirt gun, and we're very grateful for that. Two newer books. This is the Changing the Equation, 50 plus US Black women in STEM, Black women scientists and engineers and mathematicians who are doing incredible things. This, Madam C.J. Walker Builds a Business, is a chapter book about the first female millionaire ever in the United States. It was Madam C.J. Walker, and she made her millions because she invented and sold hair care products in a time where Black people and women, I should also mention, were not really known to be in business. This is one of my favorite contemporary stories about Marley Diaz Gets It Done. Marley Diaz is a young girl who started noticing that most of the books she read had white boys as the main character, and she started to look for books that were about and featured Black girls as the main characters. She started a hashtag 1000 Black girl books, and you can look that up and see an incredible list that grows and grows. And Marley is still a social activist trying to make Black girls more noticeable everywhere. Certainly we know a lot about civil rights, but I want to talk about two books of the civil rights period that you might not know about. This is Voice of Freedom by Fannie Lou Hamer, the spirit of the civil rights movement. Mrs. Hamer was an average woman who stood up when others wouldn't. She was the voice of people who had no voice, and she risked everything to try to establish equality for voters. And this is Pies from Nowhere. It's the story of a woman. Her name is Georgia Gilmore. She ran a restaurant in Atlanta, and when she found out that the civil rights workers were not able to find always places to meet or to get together, she began inviting them into her restaurant, and she served Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many other civil rights pioneers. She also continued to be active in civil rights for a long time through her restaurant. It's a beautiful book. And of course, the March series by the late Congressman John L. Lewis. These are more for young adults, maybe older teens, but it's his explanation of what it was like to be at the forefront of the civil rights movement as a freedom rider, as a marcher. It is a graphic novel, and it is amazing. There's 3 in the series, and there's now a new series called Run. All graphics, all the incredible stories of John Lewis. I want to mention 2 favorites. These are both books by I gotta say this right, Vashti Harrison. She has written several amazing historical books. The Little Leaders series. This is Exceptional Women in Black History, Exceptional Men in Black History. So if you're looking for individual stories for younger readers, these are perfect, by Harrison. And then there's all the incredible stories about all the incredible individuals. This is GOAT, Simone Biles. It is the story of the greatest of all time female gymnast. Becoming Muhammad Ali is a book that I've talked to you about on a couple of different occasions. It's sort of a fictional version of the world heavyweight champ growing up in Kentucky, but it's very true to his real story. And it is told some novel in verse and some regular chapters, the voice of Ali and the voice of his friend. We have several books about dancers and entertainers. This is ballerina Misty Copeland, Firebird, and it's the story of her rise to be one of the most perfect ballerinas in all the world, Firebird. New this year was RESPECT, The Respect Story. It's Aretha Franklin's story. And again, when you see the pictures in this book, you want to just leap into it. Each page spells out a word that defines Aretha and tells you about her life throughout the book. One of my all-time favorites is Trombone Shorty. I feel like I've said all-time favorite a bunch, but I love so many of these. Trombone Shorty is about a real trombone player who started out as a boy in New Orleans wanting to play like his big brother did in the bands that were all around town. And eventually he got that chance and he went on to become extremely famous. He's still out there today. He does a lot of concerts, and his story is beautifully illustrated in Trombone Shorty. 2 Black authors that I want to mention and that I want everybody to rush out and get their books at the library. First is Jacqueline Woodson. She is an amazing author. This is Brown Girl Dreaming. She wrote this. It's a novel in verse, and it is her own story of what it was like growing up north, but traveling back to the south where her grandparents lived. She also has a picture book called This is the Rope, a story from the Great Migration, which is the story of a jump rope that is passed down through her family and how the generations use it. She has written a book called Harbor Me, which is about a group of 5th graders who are getting into a lot of trouble at school, so their punishment is to stay after and have a talking group. But the key is there's no grown-ups there. So at first the kids just goof off, but pretty soon they start talking to each other, and it's amazing. Jacqueline Woodson has written several other books, but these are some of the ones I love the best. I hope you check out all her books. And then if you've heard me talk at all, you know I love Jason Reynolds. Jason wrote Ghost. It's actually several books in the track series about kids in middle school who become friends on the track team. Again, kids who are having a bit of a rough time of it. Ghost is the first one, and you go on from there. Jason is so talented. He writes all different kinds of books. He is one of the writers of the new Spider-Man, Miles Morales. His latest book for young people, this is called Stunt Boy, and this is a graphic novel, which is kind of new for Jason. You can see there's a lot going on in here. And it is about a boy who is struggling with anxiety. His anxiety gives him so many issues that he, in his mind, invents Stunt Boy, a superhero who helps kids who are struggling. I've talked about Stamped a couple of different times. There's a young people's version and a kids version. These are co-authored by Jason Reynolds and Dr. Ibram Kendi, and they look at Black history in this country from the last 400 years. Excellent resources. Jason's latest book, and I am so in awe of this, is Ain't Burned All the Bright. And it's a story that Jason wrote with 3 long sentences about how difficult it is to breathe during a pandemic, during times of racial protest, during times of fear. And it's looking back at our year in quarantine with a friend of his, Jason Griffin, who has been keeping a diary and a journal. You'll see there's not a lot of words. There's a lot that repeats in here, some incredible art, and a lot to think about. Beautiful, fantastic book. These are just some of the titles that the library system has about Black History Month. Remember that if you come in and look up the category Black History Month, you may not find a lot under that title. But when you start looking for individual histories, biographies, stories, picture books, the riches are everywhere. I hope to see you soon. Have a great month. Bye.